I hope that Sam and I can keep this as interactive and two-way conversation as we can. So real quick, let's see if I can give you some background information on this particular project. So we are doing up here in Nassau County, just north of Jacksonville, at the intersection of I-95 and State Road 200. We are completely reconstructing and widening a portion of State Road 200 that is adjacent to I-95. And with that, we are building Northeast Florida's first diverging diamond interchange. So as part of the project, and I know this is kind of a big scale here, you can see on the, from about middle of the project east is the concrete pavement portion of this job. So within that, we had one signalized intersection. The intersection was actually signalized at the beginning of this project. It was not signalized prior to the beginning of this project. And what we have going to the south is all of the brand new buildings for the sheriff's office and the courthouse and the county judge and all the lawyers and everything else that Nassau County uses to keep us on our toes. So just north of that, which we can't even see in the picture, is a brand new development. They were still cutting in the road when we started this project, and it is about a 3,000 acre development that Rayonier is using to turn into their corporate headquarters. There's an elementary school back there that has now been open for 2 or 3 years since the beginning of the job. Multi-family, single residence, multi-use, you know, commercial, all kind of good stuff. So that has been our biggest challenge, is communicating and talking. And this intersection, as we decided to do the concrete pavement portion and working with Wildlight and working with county officials. So, and Sam, please.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in. Actually, could you go back to the plan view of the entire project? I'll point out a couple of things. In addition to the big Wildlight development, which is on the north or upper side of the roadway, if you could see the concrete portion, which is about the eastern 2/3, and the 1/3 portion down at I-95 is was and is to remain asphalt construction. So there's a couple of points that this job is real keen. There's a real keynote of this project. One is the MOT considerations that Joey and I both had to work through as this very large development, which is not shown here, was put in, adding, signalizing one large intersection and adding 2 other intersections. And we had to kind of come up with our own MOT and design and things like that. So there was a lot of partnering went on with that. The other thing that I would say about this job, and I would also like to point out that, you know, in the last couple of years, our company has done, I think, 4 FDOT projects that were originally designed in asphalt and converted very late in the game to concrete, this being one of them. The point about this job is that it needed to be done in concrete. Tim's pointed out the log trucks that run up down this road, and I just want to give props to the department for all the jobs we've looked at and all the jobs we bid on and were successful and built. When the department tried to get the districts to volunteer projects for conversion to concrete, I was a little skeptical, you know, what jobs they were going to come up with and if they were going to make sense and be logical. And I think the department's done an excellent job of picking jobs for the right reason, including this one. My only beef, though, is that the difficult part of the job, MOT wise, is clearly down at that left or west end at I-95, where the diverging diamond interchange is going to be built. I understand the departments, particularly being that this was a conversion job. But my point about concrete pavement versus asphalt in these projects, when we're trying to pick the right job, they picked the right job, but they should have done the whole thing. I think down there where these trucks are getting on and off the interstate, I mean, I'm going to quote you a line that I gave on an ACPA panel, convention panel a few years ago. And I never had thought of it until I said it, but I'm going to repeat it, is that there's a lot of irony in concrete paving MOT in that often the jobs where the MOT is the most difficult, that's often a telltale of a project that needs to be concrete. They often go hand in hand. And I think a lot of owners and engineers shy away because of the MOT concerns with concrete. But I think this is a job, and we've done others where the MOT was quite difficult, and we did them in concrete. And in fact, there are some advantages that concrete has on MOT over asphalt. I won't go into all the weeds there because I know we're running over. But this was a job where at the Burgess Wildlight Interchange and others, with Joey's group, because we didn't really have MOT designs, we worked through those issues. I just wish they'd have gone further. So that's my point on that.
Yeah, and getting back to the William Burgess and Wildlight intersection, you know, I think for one, like Tim said earlier about, you know, detours and not being the biggest fan of them, you know, we had, I mean, on the south side of the road, we could have detoured this traffic. It would have been a pain in the butt. We would have gotten a lot of heat from the county, more so than we were already getting. And one of the challenges that this project has, kind of as a sidebar, is this is the third project on State Road 200 in Nassau County. So the people of Nassau County have been basically under construction for about the last 7 to 8 years, and they are ready for us to leave. So, you know, creating additional detours would have definitely, you know, had us at the table more often than we needed to. So, well, we did get lucky. So we were able to, like Sam said, sit down, look at the environment that we have, and I think when I'll click over here, try to get some better pictures we got some progress pictures, but we were able to manipulate the MOT to utilize when we paved, you know, the eastbound portion of the roadway based on just the existing width of William Burgess down here. And then again, we got lucky. The original plans for this project, we only had one entrance into the Wildlight development, and that was as bid built that way. About shortly after we started with construction, the Wildlight development group said, we want more entrances. So they got with our engineer of record, and they came up when designed 2 more intersections, one on either side of the signalized intersection. And getting those 2 intersections built gave us an opportunity to, you know, complete the north side of the road without having too much major diversion. So Sam, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, one thing I would say about the adjusted and readjusted MOT, and I'm assuming there's some design engineers on the conference, hopefully. One of the things that we saw in actually the original project design with the MOT at the intersections, and it became very critical when they added a couple of intersections, but is that the MOT seemingly, I'm just going to say it the way I say it, which is seemingly was designed only from the plan view perspective. And the actual profile view perspective was not really recognized fully when we looked at some of the grade differentials in the different phasings at the intersection. And as we all know, the world is three-dimensional, not two. And I think some of the MOT was missed that way. But to understanding that, you know, the job got redesigned, you know, late in the game, but it was a consideration. And you know, we have seen in other projects, the department, in fact, over the last several years, the department's made a concerted effort to convert mainly just intersections to concrete, particularly big intersections. We've done several in Tampa and, you know, all over the state, actually, that are major 6 and 8 lane traffic intersections, a lot of stop and go. The department's been converting those to concrete. So by the same, not just get back on the same soapbox about the 95 intersection, but I think there could have been made an argument that the 95 intersection and those ramps on this job at the west end, and then not in our project here, but in the last project Joey mentioned, one of the other 2 projects on State Road 200 that go off toward Fernandina. If you would have done that intersection at US 17 and 200 in concrete, you would have really, in my view, extended the pavement design life of this whole corridor quite a bit just by addressing those 2 large, sort of heavily traveled stop and go, either interchanges or intersections. So that's just another thought there. The other point was being, when you look at MOT, you got to look at it in 3 dimensions. So,
yeah, Sam, let's see. We'll jump through. I think we've got some pretty good slides that kind of show the, you know, what we all called during the project the wedge. So let's see if we can jump through here. I'll give you some introduction. So this is basically what the project looked like prior to construction, divided 4-lane. Asphalt roadway project, and then this is real quick. This is, you know, one of our first phases. We've got the traffic. We've got temporary travel lanes that pretty much sat about right here to the north. We shifted all the traffic to the north, and we built the south side of the road. And for reference, so most of the pictures that we have right here are all going to be, if y'all, right at this particular intersection. So this, you know, we're either going to be looking west on the pictures or looking east, and the intersection is always going to be the signalized intersection.
And that's the Burgess. Yeah, the Burgess intersection.
That's the William Burgess and Wildlight intersection. So this was our big intersection and our big challenge with construction and keeping traffic going. So let's see real quick. So this is looking east. So again, real quick, some construction. This is 4 inches of asphalt base going on right here. Okay, and then, okay, so here we go. So, okay, let's see, that's looking west. So here we've got looking west. This is our eastbound travel lane on the south side of the road, newly constructed. And then this is our wedge that continued to move and reshape every phase that we went through with paving the intersection. Yeah, not only were we able to just, and again, with respect to the MOT, that's pretty much what we, you know, we all had to sit down and we all had to find a way to, for Sam to pave this piece right here, basically under existing live traffic and without using any high early. This was all, 28-day plain cement concrete from his plant that he brought, and luckily it was a really good, it was a really good mix. I was very, very happy with it. So, we were able to normally hit strength to open the traffic about 3 days. About 3 days, I think we were hitting 2,200 on. So if you look here, and I know it might be kind of hard just because of the way the aerial pictures are, but we've got all of the north and southbound William Burgess traffic sitting over here, so that, Sam can pretty much pave this piece all, form work and by hand. So again, dealing with the challenges of paving through the intersection, we didn't slip through. So everything was kind of formed up and poured by hand. And then
I think one thing, Joey, to mention is that right at the center line of the roadway is about close to a 2.5, 3 foot grade differential. When you start adding 10.5 inches of concrete on 4 inches of asphalt base, and you're already talking about a 2.5 foot grade differential, and you're trying to have trucks come into the road and make a left-hand turn off of Burgess to get them, people started realizing late in the game that this was a very difficult MOT situation. So it took some patience, creativity, and a lot of partnering between ourselves, Joey's group, and the department, and the prime contractor, because we weren't the prime, to make all this work and keep everybody happy. So, yeah.
One of the things that, for us to kind of have the conversation within respect to this conference, there's been a few things that I've learned over the years with, and I know I've told Sam this 100 times, and I'll tell anybody this, with all the various types of concrete contractors and subcontractors that I've worked with over the years, when you talk about, as the CEI, being willing to partner and work as a team with the contractor to get a road built, for me personally, it has a lot to do with the faith of the contractor. And I say the contractor, I mean the one that's actually doing the concrete paving. So there is, in my opinion, I can tell you there's night and day difference when you've got a concrete paving contractor versus a contractor who can pave concrete. And so when just to be honest, and I know I'm sure there's several contractors on it, but just to be honest, the standard of care is at a whole nother level. Sam came out from the very beginning and said, I'm going to pave this road and I'm going to build this road, and right behind my paver will be a finished grade perfect product. And he said, now, unfortunately, we still have to come back and grind it. But he said, we will not change our work ethics and our methods. This is how we do it in Michigan. And we will have a completely ready to drive, smooth surface pulling right behind the paver, and everything will be great. So when you see that, and then one of the other things, Sam's team in the field was absolutely phenomenal. So, I think, Sam, tell me, your entire crew working together, I don't think there had any less than 15 years with working with each other or something like that.
Well, it's actually not as much as it used to be, but you said all that just like I wrote it, Joey. I appreciate it. I'll give you the other 50 later. But one thing you're referring to, and I hope John Roberts may have jumped off, but I always say that our concrete rides better before it's ground than after. But yeah, I appreciate all that, and I think that's to your point. I think I've seen this in a lot of owners' work in concrete paving around the country, be it FAA projects or Corps of Engineer projects or other DOTs. is one thing I've always stressed to the department is to just have a valid and bona fide certification process or pre-qualification process for concrete pavers, because that's very important. And it's unlike asphalt paving, you can't just take a milling machine out there and take some of it up and put it back down again. It's a much bigger deal than that. So, but I appreciate that. We try to take a lot of care in that. And I mean,
well,
I look at it like doctors and lawyers. You're only as good as what people say about you. So.
You got, when you've got your field project managers and your field quality control. I mean, so when they're out there, laying out the project, and then they call you and say, hey, come here, I need you to take a look at something. And, so we run over, and this is before anything's even on the ground. And they're like, look, the way that we've got our joints laid out, we want to put, we want to move this little thing right here, we want to move it just a little bit, because if we move it just a little bit, then that makes this whole thing work out better. Or, I'll get the phone call, hey, can you come take a look at this? And they're like, look, if we can move this bullnose 2 inches this way or that way, then when we come in to do our cuts, we've completely minimized the potential for, cracking where it's not supposed to be cracking. And so as far as, my willingness and our willingness and the department's willingness to, to one, just kind of partner and make this work, when you've got a contractor that's got, that much focus on those little things, I pretty much, it's like, hey, whatever you guys want to do, but it worked. And that's what makes this partnering is so important when we're sitting there scratching our head on to do something. And, when the paving contractor had a suggestion or recommended something, we were willing to listen, just because we knew where the contractor's standard of care was.
Well, let me make a point to that, Joey, about, and this kind of ties into Eric's talk, starting off this session about joint designs. At the time we began paving this project in Nassau, we were doing 2 other DOT projects in the state. And the joint design in each one was very different from each other. One project basically had a joint design layout, which was we totally changed because it was incorrect. It would have cracked all over the place. I won't mention the project or the district, but they only addressed the complicated intersection and turn lane type areas of the job. We had another job we were doing where the entire job had a joint design layout with dimensions and everything. And then we had this job, Nassau. It didn't have a single joint line shown on the whole job, which left it all up to us, the entire job, intersections, and you never know sometimes. Concrete can be funny. You think you know where the stresses are gonna be and where it's gonna crack. But my point is that, on this job, without any joint design for 95,000 square yards, and us kind of doing everything, I'm real proud of my people for nailing it as well as we did. But I think that's something that designers in the department has to, and Tim's heard me say this, going forward, it's really important to have a road guide to know at what level the designer's responsibility ends and then the contractor's responsibility takes over for actually designing where these joints are going to go. So, and I think that's one of the big questions for the department going forward in concrete paving.
Let's see. I can I can kind of real quick just, so this was, one of the intersections that we were able to utilize. So if you were to pay attention and look through these pictures, our wedge, our magic wedge, based on how close or how far apart opposing traffic was, This was probably one of our biggest challenges because, one, we had such great differential change, and then our work zone went like this. And so we're like, okay, well, how can we get from here to here in this little bitty space? But we figured it out. It worked out good, and we didn't have any challenges. So these are, and Tim, please, I don't know what all the, again, with this kind of being a teaming session right here, I'm going to throw through these pictures, but if anybody, there's really no educational content to these pictures, but so we can talk about anything that we want. So.
And really, it was the photographs were designed to facilitate exactly what you guys did, which was take you through some of the challenges. The type of relationship and the type of commitment that's being described here is going to need to go on forever. We've partnered with the industry and ACPA regarding coursework for joint design and trying to improve the knowledge base of the designers that do concrete pavement for Florida DOT. But that was all to say, we're never going to have a perfect set of plans. And we're always going to need to adjust to the conditions that we have in the field. And there's always going to be that need to, again, I don't mean to overuse the word, but it's so critical, partner in the field and say, all right, I know what the plan says, but look at these conditions on the ground here today at this moment, an adjustment seems appropriate.
So, yeah, Tim, to kind of, I hope everybody, if you want, you'll get a copy of the presentation, but if you kind of take a look at the development that has occurred just around none of this was in the plans. I mean, we had no idea all of this was coming in when the project started and when the contractor bid the job. So, and it's inside the concrete pavement portion is where all this brand new development has come. And we're still building more right now. There's a grocery store that wants to add a turn lane inside the concrete pavement portion. There's another primary care that wants to add a turn lane just before the concrete pavement portion. So with working with the contractor and again, the engineer record and we as the CEI, the contractor really did have some unexpected challenges that Sam as a sub and our prime were really, I mean, they hit a home run. They were like, there was nothing here that we couldn't find a way to resolve, and it kind of speaks for itself because everything's built right now with respect to the concrete pavement portion. So.
Well, Joey, besides all that development, if you look at that right picture, you can see a logging truck. So they're still there too.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't like all this development stocked all the logging trucks.
There's 3 logging trucks right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they go east full and they come west empty.
Well, gentlemen, thank you